like to open up a little bit about what it's like living with borderline personality disorder. You might notice me kind of looking that way a little bit. It's just because I have notes. I have ADHD too, so sometimes it's hard for me to like keep track of my thoughts. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. I've struggled with my mental health since I was about 12 years old. The first time that I experienced what depression was like core shaking depression, was at that age. And I remember feeling really empty and alone. A lot more than just, feeling sad. Like, I just felt immensely depressed and hopeless for no reason at all. I went to my parents about it, and they were pretty adamant about me not seeking out help. They didn't want to put a label on me. They didn't want to put medication in my system. They felt like it was a phase, and, they didn't want to react too seriously to something that might just pass. They were wrong, though. It wasn't a phase, and I tried to commit the S word when I was about 17 years old, and I was placed in the hospital and put on medication. They diagnosed me at the time with bipolar type 2, and I remember feeling like that just didn't seem right. The meds that they gave me, they did help, but my insurance wouldn't cover it, and they were like $900 a month or something, which was outrageous. So I just stopped taking the medication, and I coped by for a few more years. But ultimately, I ended up going back to the doctor and being put back on medication, and I took myself off the medication again. It didn't really help me. It didn't really do anything for me. And then a few years later, I had a nervous breakdown, and I ended up back in the mental hospital. It was at that time that I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and that diagnosis felt like home. Like, when they told me what it was and I did some research about it, like, suddenly everything just made sense. Like, I don't know, it was so weird. Like, it fit me, BPD is a disorder that is characterized by a fear of abandonment, emotional instability, reckless impulsivity, feelings of unreality, disassociation. In some cases, people have psychosis. Outbursts of anger are pretty common. Difficulty maintaining interpersonal relationships, and other people, including myself at the time, struggle with self-destructive behaviors and suicidal ideation. I hesitate to say these words because I know that they're super triggering. If you feel triggered, please, exit the video now. This is going to be some pretty deep topics that I'm hitting on. Anyway, so when they diagnosed me with that, it really just made sense. Mainly because they told me that when people have borderline personality disorder, they are extremely sensitive emotionally. Like, the slightest thing can feel like the most painful thing in the entire world. Like, we've been compared to emotional burn victims. Emotional burn victims is basically what they say it's like. It's like, if you've been burned physically, like, it makes your skin like super sensitive. Well, for someone who has borderline personality disorder, that's how I feel on an emotional level. Anyway, since then, I've still struggled, and I've come a long way. Someone can say something hurtful to me, and it feels like a physical thing, but then sometimes I can be so hurt that my brain just completely distances me from my emotions, which can be really frustrating because it makes it to where I can't feel anything, and you need to feel things. Feeling things is important. The weirdest part is that I can do really well for long periods of time. So much that I sometimes wonder if I was diagnosed, if it was a fluke, if it was wrong, if it was just a phase, all along. But obviously it's not. When I am in an episode, I often have a hard time regulating my emotions and my impulses. I will binge drink, I've done really hard drugs. I don't do that anymore. But I put myself in situations that I'm really lucky to have survived. I self-sabotage a lot. And what I mean by that, is I have quit jobs before that I really had no right quitting. I have put myself in some really, 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 really bad situations. I've really destroyed myself, time and time again. I think a part of me knows that this isn't normal, and then there's another part of me that is very self-destructive. So I go in between being this normal, rational person and being this very self-destructive, self-sabotaging, and impulsive person. And it's really weird, it's almost like having multiple personalities, but I don't. My anger is really not the greatest either. Borderline anger is something that is joked about, but it's really not funny. The slightest thing can set me off, at times. And then there's other times where if you said something out of the way to me, I can handle it like a champ. There's really no predicting when I'm going to go one way or the other. I pitch grown ass tantrums. I've thrown things. I've freaked out on people. When I get mad or somebody says something hurtful to me or somebody that I love, I have been known to be super vindictive. And then later on, I'll think about it and be like, maybe that wasn't the right way to react, The worst symptom that I feel that I have is that I feel like that everyone is against me a lot of the times. So I'll feel like that no one likes me, that, I'm the worst person in the world. And because of that, I oscillate a lot. It's really hard to maintain friendships because I really want to have friends. I want to connect, but simultaneously I am terrified of people. And I guess that's because I'm afraid of abandonment so much and rejection that I get super anxious when trying to navigate human connections, that all I can think about is, trying to make that person like me. And I get so scared that they're not, that it's just easier to stay at a distance. My fear of abandonment has nearly destroyed my relationship and past relationships. I'll get to the point to where I'm so afraid of being abandoned that I will act in a way that is almost certain to make me be abandoned. Let's say that, I felt like my partner was cheating on me before, so then I'd get super clingy and I'd call their phone a million times, or, I would go through all of their stuff, and then they think I'm this crazy person because I'm acting like a crazy person, and I push them away, and either I'm very avoidant or I'm way too clingy, and there's no in between. A lot of people joke and say borderline personality is the I hate you, please don't leave me disorder, because, we will be telling somebody, I hate you, you don't love me, you don't care about me, you don't, I'm nothing to you, and then, oh, please don't go, please don't go, please don't go. It's so difficult. Relationships are hell on this disorder. Thankfully, I'm really blessed, though. I have a husband who has dealt with his own inner struggles. So he understands me, and he's been really good to stand by me, even when he probably shouldn't have. And thankfully, that's an area that I've seen a lot of growth in, at least in that relationship. My friendships are still very shaky, and it's still very hard for me to make friends. Sometimes I do really good with friendships, and then sometimes I get really distant, and it's just the consistency there. It's lacking. As I've gotten older, though, and I've done therapy, I've started taking better care of myself, and I've focused on placing my energy into other things. A lot of aspects of my BPD have simmered down because of that, but I still struggle with the fear of abandonment pretty hard, and the impulsivity. Most of the time, though, I just feel like an outsider. I feel like an alien. I don't feel like I belong anywhere. And I also struggle with not feeling real, which can be pretty scary, and it can also make connecting with others pretty hard. I go in my head a lot sometimes, and I can get stuck there. I have a hard time getting out. I'll get stuck on autopilot. I do things, and then I'll just blank out the fact that I did it. I have a hard time establishing memories. I can't remember the vast majority of my life. I'm being honest. Self-harm and suicidal ideation is another symptom, and I don't do that anymore as far as the harming myself, and let me say that if you are someone who is struggling with that and this is triggering to you, please leave the video, okay? I don't want to trigger anybody, and if you're dealing with that, please seek help, because there is help out there for you. I don't do things like that anymore. I still do have those thoughts, but I have better coping strategies, like if I'm feeling really down, like I immediately know that I need to start doing better with my self-care, or I need to take time to myself, or I need to treat myself and bring my mood back up. I've gotten better at forced regulation, if that makes sense. Now my self-harm is more of like risky decisions, like I'll binge drink sometimes, and that's something I struggle with. I've gotten better about it, but it's still something I struggle with. I'll also like binge eat, or impulsively and recklessly spend money, or just isolate to a bad extreme, and I lose sight of why it's important to take care of myself a lot, or I just don't love myself at all a lot, and I struggle with that, and that makes taking care of myself really hard sometimes, because I don't feel like I'm worth it, so I'll just won't do it, It's really a lot less of not wanting to be here than it is just not feeling capable of being a human, or just being in so much pain that I just want it to stop. And that's one thing about having borderline personality disorder, is there is so much emotional suffering. It's like you just would do anything to get away from yourself. And I think that has a lot to do with the impulsivity, and a lot to do with the disassociation, is that it's just, you just want to run the hell away from yourself. And that's something that's really, really hard too, because when you live your entire life trying to run away from yourself, it can make it really, really hard to grow and to, to have a meaningful life, and I've gotten a lot better about that with age, but it's still something that I struggle with. Sometimes it's just a struggle to exist, and I cannot reconcile why it's so easy for other people to stay consistent and to just be an adult. Like, it's hard for me to do that, Mindfulness is really the thing that's helped me more than anything. I try to stay self-aware, which can be pretty hard at times, but for the most part, I've gotten good at questioning myself when I'm acting impulsively, or I'm acting in a way that is reminiscent of past BPD episodes. So like, if I notice that I'm getting angered really easily, I'm making a lot of piss poor decisions, I'm distancing myself, I'm participating in super impulsive, reckless behaviors, like I will try to question myself and, try to get myself in a different mindset, and think about things in a different way. I still have days though where I feel like I'm cured, but really I know that isn't true. Living with BPD is a hell that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, honestly. There's a lot of stigma behind this disorder, so I struggle to tell people, because a lot of people associate BPD with like the movie Sybil, or people think that you have multiple personality disorder, or that you're a psychopath, or that you're like Amber Heard, and the thing about personality disorders, just like mood disorders, is that they are on a spectrum. So there's people who are very malignant or low functioning, and then there's people who are very high functioning. I have been both, I've been super low functioning, and I'm doing really well now, and I would say that I'm high functioning now. It varies. I think life stresses, not having medication. There's a lot of things that contribute and can throw you on either side of that spectrum. In the past, when I was on the low end of the spectrum, I did drugs. I had sex with people that I shouldn't have had. I did very impulsive things in relationships. I committed crimes like writing tons of bad checks, and I got a DUI, and I've shoplifted before, and those are all terrible things, and I do not participate in that type of behavior anymore. But I'm definitely not, I'm really open-minded now and humbled compared to what I would have been before I became so aware of myself, I've had anger outbursts in public. I've been kicked out of Walmart, I've nearly gotten into fights. I've nearly had the law called on me, for things like that. And the difference now, though, is that I don't do these horrible things and say, well, that's just my disorder that caused me to act out, and then, throw my hands up in the air. Now when I make a mistake, I really try to own it. I'm not always very good at that, but usually if I sit with it and think about it, in hindsight, I can go back and say, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that. There again, I don't do the things that I once did. So like what I once would have done impulsively, I definitely would not do now. Like I wouldn't commit a crime if I could help it. And I wouldn't hurt somebody, intentionally. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not capable of hurting anybody. I think everybody's capable of hurting people, especially unintentionally when you are biased to feel like that you're in the right. I just try to question myself, a lot. I'm not perfect, and I really have to think about what to say and what to do, and I have to compare what I want to do, or, my thoughts and actions towards other people who are normal, or whatever normal is. But I'm just constantly trying to keep myself in check. If you know someone who has BPD, please be understanding. Please be kind. Please don't shoo their feelings. At the same time, though, if they're abusive towards you, you don't have to put up with that. You need to implement boundaries. If you don't implement boundaries, you're enabling them to treat you that way. I'm not victim blaming, but you have to set boundaries with people. Don't let people walk all over you and abuse you. Please set boundaries with these people and keep them in check, because they need it. They probably need it more than they'd ever admit to. If you have BPD and you're still struggling, please know that it doesn't have to be hell all the time. There is peace. I'm not saying that you're going to find a cure or anything like that, but there are ways to alleviate the symptoms or to make the symptoms easier to deal with and to live with. Medication won't cure it, but it can help. Having a consistent routine really helps me. Basically, consistency in any way possible that I can establish it really helps me. So having a routine, eating, the same things on a regular basis, having a set bedtime, having a set work schedule. Working for myself has really helped too, because it's just hard for me to work, out in the public, under pressure, under stress. I have a tendency to get kind of flighty. But if you're struggling, it doesn't have to be hell all the time. It can get better. I know it can, because I've been at the lowest of lows. I've been homeless. I've been strung out on hard drugs, and now I'm in a different place. I'm doing a lot better in my life, and I have consistency for the most part. Honestly, the thing that I try to remember is that life is just a ride. It's not going to go on forever. You're going to eventually get off this ride. It's scary sometimes. It's unpredictable. It's even sad, but there's a lot of good too. And those precious moments in between, those little blips of happiness, they really are worth it. And you just kind of have to take the good with the bad. But I hope this video was helpful. I'm going to share more content on borderline personality disorder moving forward. I just kind of wanted to touch base about my personal experience with it in hopes that maybe it could help somebody. If this video was helpful to you, please like and subscribe. Share it with somebody that you feel like that it could help. Just hit the little notification bell if you'd like to see more from me. Peace and love, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I feel like that I've said enough, but I appreciate whoever listened. Anyway, have a good day.